start the stream, guys.
We'll call the meeting to order. Certified compliance with the open records law?
Yes.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Gillis.
Here.
Councilmember Hartung.
Here.
Councilmember Hooker.
Here.
Councilmember Reisler.
Here.
Councilmember Schneider.
Here.
Councilmember Schofield.
Here.
All are present.
Next, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would somebody like to make a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda. Second.
We have a motion and second to adopt the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. It's adopted. Next, we move on to public comments. Did we have anything submitted for the meeting, or anybody who had contacted us? Is there anybody else in the public that would like to make any comments? Okay, we'll move on to, we don't have any scheduled appearance. We move on to the consent agenda. The following matters may be acted upon by the City Council utilizing a single vote. Individual items which any member wishes to address in greater detail or as a separate item on the regular agenda may be removed from the consent agenda upon the request of any council member. All we have are the minutes from the regular City Council meeting from February 10th, 2021.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. It is approved. Next, we move on to the business agenda. Mayor's report, just a few things to talk about. Just reminders, we said we do have a short special meeting tomorrow. Just a couple of items on it at 5 o'clock. I do believe that we have a quorum that will be available. I myself won't be able to make it. I have a memorial service over in Ellsworth for a relative of mine to go to. But again, just a few quick items that need to be taken care of, and appreciate everybody that can make it for that special meeting tomorrow. I'd like to thank staff, the election workers, and everybody for the spring primary that took place. Not a lot of voters, but that's okay. Obviously, we met our requirements, and obviously the city clerk, Angie Morgan, doing a great job, and the folks that did work, but it was did a great job for us. Also, for everybody, for city administrator, Matt, and of course Cedar Corporation, the people from the county, for the open house they put on about the lane bill. I'm assuming that we'll get to the report. Matt's going to have a few things to say about it. We did have quite a few of the property owners along Laneville to come to the open house, learn to, and so on. I think, again, those are good things to have before we really, so people have the opportunity to get this all taken care of as we head into a major project. But again, thanks for all the staff, and again, Cedar Corp and the two representatives of the county that were here, because obviously the county rode there and were able to help speak to any of those property owners concerning that project. Is there any questions? Hearing none, we didn't pull anything off the consent agenda. Administrator Rasmussen.
A couple items as well. Probably the main thing is just a reminder that City Hall will be opening up to the public next Monday, March 1st. I think I did hear the county's opening on April 1st, and not an April Fool's joke or anything. I think we'll be well equipped though to, fair to say that this week with the nice weather, there's been a few more people out. Our doorbell's been rung quite a few times. So again, people are comfortable enough. We'll still ask some social distancing and masks and hand sanitizers and things of that nature. Again, I don't envision that it's going to be a big deal. I think some of those people that the outside drop boxes have worked very well, but we have some people that like to come in and chat a little bit. And again, we won't encourage too much of that from the standpoint of long term. But again, we know people are getting antsy. People have been pooped up in winter, looking to get out, and so we'll be accommodating that, and I think we'll still be able to maintain the safety for our staff and still accommodate the public. Otherwise, I was just going to mention the election piece as well. And I don't know, Angie, if you had anything to add, totals for voters and things of that nature, but
We had 69 voters. It was very small. 12 were absentee, so we had a very low turnout. it.
And gearing up for the next election already, which will be
April 6th.
April 6th.
Yeah.
Anticipate a little more turnout for that.
Yes, I'm sure that one will be a little bit bigger.
And we'll have a couple of, we have some uncontested races, but we also have a couple of school board seats that are contested, state superintendent of public instruction. And of course, as we said, by the time people start dumping money into that, there'll be some campaigns coming out of this, especially southern part of the state, that'll probably get some people fired up and will increase the voter turnout in April.
Are we opening back up per state or just per us?
We're discussing the mayor,
For us,
discussed it for us, yeah.
I think we're to the point, you look at the local numbers, you know, that it's time that we can do it, obviously still doing the social distancing and stuff, and the protections that we have, I think we're good.
Yeah, and just a reminder, there was never a state mandate to close.
There wasn't.
Anything like that, there wasn't. So. Otherwise, that's all I have.
Any questions for the administrator? Hearing none, we'll move on to the police department. Chief Ridgway.
I have nothing on the monthly report, just the agenda items.
Okay. The Pepin County Tavern is discussion of possible action regarding the picnic license, of course. Masonic Lodge on March the 6th. And then, of course, the other item right after that is the open container. First of all, as far as the picnic license, the application, everything's in order. There's no problem with that. It's a similar one that they've had in the past, correct? We'll just have the discussion sort of, since they're both somewhat related, to make sure. Then, of course, the application for the open container, they've used this in the past. And I'll turn it over, the meeting took place, I'll turn it over to Chief Ridgway.
With the owners of all the taverns, including Durand Brewery, who's going to have the garage open. So we talked about the rules for the open container, the garbages, no glass containers. We talked about the city is going to sign the area again, and then they're going to post signs at all of the taverns explaining where the open container area is as well. It was a good discussion. We haven't had any issues with the open container ordinance since it started. It's been kind of helpful for us so that we don't have to have that on our plate as long as we're, so it's gone well for us, no issues there, and I thought everything went smooth.
Okay, so we've got both of these applications in front of us, and everything's in order. The one thing I'd like to have a little bit input from the city administrator concerning, obviously, the approval of events. I mean, technically, we're not approving the event, we're approving some parts of it to allow them to take place. But obviously, with the COVID situation, as far as contact with the county health department.
When we first recall when we got the applications in, I did contact Charlene Dock and ask that she contact Heidi Stewart, the Pepin County Health Director, to discuss basically what they'd be doing and some recommendations that Heidi might have for them. Those discussions did take place. I talked to Heidi again this afternoon. And I guess one other thing I want to add before I get too deep into this is, at our weekly Zoom meeting last week, Heidi brought up that she has kind of incorporated a document from another entity that she's had a number of requests already from folks looking ahead. FunFest being a big one already, but she said she's had some contacts from even weddings this summer and some other events. So she's come up with a document to basically have these folks that want these events to fill out. Basically, it'll outline just how risky the event is, and then she has a basis point where she can sit down and talk to these the folks holding these events to try to mitigate that risk a little bit better. So basically, she's been through that with the folks from this event, and again, clearly there's the social distancing piece and things of that nature are recommendations, but we all understand there's not a whole lot of enforcement there. The folks said they're going to do their best, and according to Heidi and my discussions with her, hopefully things work out. I guess from the standpoint of if there's a spike, in numbers after this, clearly, from the health department standpoint, that's not going to bode well for other events upcoming. So again, we're hopeful that those precautions will be followed and things get turned out well. But at this point, there's nothing holding it back. Heidi's recommendation is to move forward.
Are there any questions on either part, either the picnic license at the Masonic or the open container? Hearing none, let's take up the picnic license first. Would somebody like to make a motion concerning the application for the picnic license for the Pepper County Tavern Lake for the Fun Putt Crawl at the Masonic Lodge at 203 West Main Street on April the 6th, 2021?
And I'll make a motion to approve the picnic license.
Did I say?
Pepper County Tavern League
What did I say?
on March 6th.
I said, April. That's election day. Anyway, Mark will make the motion. Mark, sorry.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion second. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion's agreed to. Next, we'll have, would somebody like a motion concerning the application for the open container from the Pepper County Tavern League for the Fun Putt Crawl on March the 6th, 2021?
I'll make the motion, we approve the application for the open container.
Second. We have a motion and second to approve the application. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion's agreed to. Next, we have discussion possible action regarding the renewal of the school resource officer contract with the Durand, Arkansas School District. We had that just discussed at the safety meeting. I'll turn it over and we'll let the Chief Ridgway begin, and then we also have our present person in that position available to speak to the council.
All right, thank you. So our SRO contract is up in June, at the end of June, I'm sorry. So we're looking at another 3-year contract with the Durand, Arkansas School District. The only change that we made to the contract would be item 11, which would be the change of the dates from July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2024. Otherwise, it's the same contract as years past. It's worked out, the position has worked out well for us. Brandon has established some great relationships with the kids. I talked to Greg Overspike and Bill Klaus regularly, and for sure every year around review time and see how things are going, and they have great things to say about Brandon. The program's working out well. Otherwise, the contract is the same, 180-day school year. The city, or the school district and city are 75-25% split for vacation and sick accruals. While he's working the school, he has a time card that has school time and city time. So anytime he's working the city, or for the school district, it's paid 100% salary for any benefits and any other costs associated with that. Any overtime, if it's school related, the school pays it. And, overtime that's city related, the city would pay it. And, whereas the school district did approve their end of it last week, and so now we're just looking for city council approval. Brandon did submit a 3-year summary report for you to review. One thing that wasn't on the summary report that Brandon and I talked about after the fact, after you had already had those in your packet, is Brandon is mentoring 2 elementary kids at Caddy Woodlawn. That's something new that the school had talked to Brandon and I about, and said, hey, is this something we could have Brandon do? We thought it would be good to try to help those kids that were having a few issues at school. So he is mentoring 2 students, meets with them every week, and then whenever needed, and if they're having some issues that day, he goes up and meets with them and tries to help them out, try to get successfully through their school day. So that's something new that Brandon does that I think is a great thing to help some kids that are having some issues. We've had some big cases at the school that we were thankful Brandon was there to immediately respond to, as well. As you saw in the report, there were some pretty serious incidents that thankfully Brandon was around to respond to as well. Does anybody have any questions about the report or the contract?
If you again want to mention that it's been with the school board's status with the agreement.
Yeah, the school board did pass their agreement last week. So the school has already signed off on the contract. Scott has it for when the city passes ours. If you pass ours, I'm sorry.
First of all, I'd like to thank Officer Bonneroff for the summary. I believe he did a very good job putting together. Put a lot of information. I don't know if you want to say anything about
Sure, I
your
can say-
3 years.
Yeah, I
About
can
your
say
3 years.
something. Well, last 3 years have been, feel have been pretty good for me. I've enjoyed my role in the schools quite well. Built, a lot of positive relationships with a lot of different students. The elementary kids, you get a lot more feedback from them than the older ones. I can walk through elementary lunch and I don't know how many times I can hear my name being yelled across the lunchroom. But yeah, even in the younger, like middle school, middle school there, I get interact with them. High schoolers, they don't want to do too much around me, but they still interact and we still have a pretty good time building those positive relationships. It makes it easier for them to come up to me with questions, concerns that they may have. Quite a few times they'll stop me in the lunchroom and do the hypothetical question, but it probably happened. And then any case that comes through, I know it's been pretty nice to have it handled right away instead of trying to pull an officer from patrol shift to handle the case. The school greatly appreciates it. Sometimes they take quite a amount of time interviewing kids, and it's time consuming, so it helps out Stan or whoever's working the day shift for us. And so I think it's been pretty good, and I always enjoy getting in the classrooms talking about various presentations I do. I think those have been pretty good and always improving them. So, yeah.
If I could just add one thing to that too, one thing I kind of forgot to mention that's kind of a big deal is people have been using Brandon as a resource. I think of the sheriff's department had a situation where they called me up ahead of time and said, hey, Brandon knows these kids, we're going there for this certain case. Do you think we could take Brandon with us to stay with the kids? And so they have a support system there. And they specifically asked for Brandon to come out to the county and help them because he knew those kids. So he's built those relationships that has helped our surrounding agencies as well. And I talked about it during public safety. Brandon has been attending a lot of trainings on crimes against children, internet-based trainings, things like that. And our officers use him as a resource for that as well. If they have questions regarding Snapchat and different things like that, he's getting called for a child porn case. Brandon, what do you think about this app? How can we do that? So we started working with the ICAC teams and just kind of tracking that as well. So he's a resource for our entire community in this area as well too.
Yeah, I kind of get the technology bit, being one of the younger people in the department, so
Hey, Dad.
we won't throw any numbers out.
Any other questions for Officer Bonneroff or the chief?
Brendan, do you work a lot of sporting events?
Yes, I usually get out to, in a normal year, with football, doing the crossing as well, and I just stick around for the game. Don't make every basketball game. Sometimes I've been going in personal, not working, but go there for myself. Same with some of the spring sports. This year with the restrictions on it, it's been a lot harder. But so hopefully once things get back to normal, I can make that appearance.
Okay. Any other questions?
Obviously, you like what you're doing.
Yeah, I do.
Good.
It's a lot of fun for me.
Administrator Rasmussen, would you like to give a quick update on the financing and the budgeting for this? And
Yeah, just kind of as a reminder that, so in the 2021 budget, the Brandon's total position is about $65,000 and the school district's paying about $44,900. So the total split, it's basically about 69% of his time and benefits are covered by the school district and the remaining 31% by the city. So again, this is, we discussed earlier, I think it's a pretty good deal. As Brandon just noted, it's, well, Brandon and Stan noted, it's, nothing but positives from the school district side, and it's clearly working out well for us too. So I think this has been a really positive joint agreement between two governmental entities.
any other questions? Would somebody like to make a motion concerning the agreement with the Durand, Arkansas School District for the school resource officer.
I'll make a motion that we approve the agreement with the school district on the resource officer for the next 3 years.
Second.
And there's a second. Okay, we have a motion second. It's on the floor for any more discussion. Hearing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Gillis.
Yes.
Councilmember Hartung.
Yes.
Councilmember Hooker.
Yes.
Councilmember Raisler.
Yes.
Councilmember Schneider.
Yes.
Councilmember Schofield.
Yes.
All 6 in favor.
Motion's agreed to. Next, we move on. Do we have anything else from the fire department?
No.
And then the ambulance actually will be, Mike will be here, the director will be here tomorrow for the quick meeting to give his, since it's on a Thursday and it works out for him. Next, we move on to public works and utilities. Engineers report. We have anything from Cedar Fork?
Yeah, as the mayor mentioned earlier, last Thursday night was our open house for the Laneville and Dryer project. Between residents that showed up and residents that called in, we estimate about 16 different residences that showed up to inquire on their properties, all positive. Some were here to, basically state their case of anti-sidewalk. And once we told them that council took those out, they really didn't know what they were gonna even say then for the rest of the time they wanted to talk to us. So it's pretty positive. Again, nothing really negative. Everybody's in support. Everybody knows what needs to be done up there. I don't think there's anything else that really came out of it other than that. Scott, did you refresh my memory on that?
No, I think a lot of good discussions, and the main purpose was just to get anyone's questions answered. Matt was right. I was kind of on crowd control outside while Kevin and the rest of Matt kind of paired off on folks, and a number of people, as soon as they heard sidewalks, they kind of took the wind out of their sails. But they still all came in and asked general questions on more on the project itself, and it was a nice, good discussion.
Yeah, roughly 16 to 20. Yeah.
Out of those, what were the squawks, if there were any?
There's really, most of the concerns and questions revolve around access. How am I gonna get
During
in?
construction.
How am I gonna get in on my property? Am I gonna be notified when they're digging in front of the house? That seems to be most of the concerns, for lack of a better term. Once you tell them that we're widening the road out to 38 feet and we're putting all new water and all new sewer laterals, all new storm, correcting drainage, getting a new driveway approach back in there about 8 to 10 feet. They all seem to be pretty ecstatic about that. A few assessment questions. Obviously, our answers were that we haven't decided that yet, so there'll be future meetings and times to discuss that at a later date. But for the most problem concerns were just mostly access type questions.
Matt and I have talked a little bit following the 7th Avenue project, obviously I was here for. I think those were the similar type things. And so if there's a somewhere, whether it's a Facebook thing or something that when we know some of these things last minute, or there's a last minute, hey, we're gonna need to turn the water off for a few hours and things of that nature, we have to come up with some idea of how to be able to notify folks. And so we'll keep working on that and come up with something. But again, I think social media is probably about the best way to do it and go from there.
And then just a reminder, the bids come out tomorrow. Tomorrow will be the first day that you'll see it in the paper. And then bid opening will be March 15th, Monday the 15th. The 3rd Avenue project will open at 2 p.m. here at City Hall. And the Laneville Dryer Street project will open at 3 p.m. on the 15th.
That's when we start accepting bids, or that's when the bidding starts?
That's when the bidding stops. So sealed bids for the 3rd Avenue project have to be here by 2 p.m. And then myself, Cedar Corp, we'll sit in here, we'll physically open the bids, we'll read them aloud, they'll write them down. And then they have to take them back to their office and review them, make sure all the quantities are right, make sure they didn't miss anything in the spec. And then we bring the low bid back to city council at the following council meeting for you guys to approve the low bidder. And then at 3 o'clock, we'll do the same process for the Waynesville Dryer Street portion. They'll bring their sealed envelopes in, set them on the desk in here, and then we'll open them, read them aloud, and do the same process. You know, kind of the reasoning for the 1 hour between the two projects is it allows, most of your bidders are gonna bid on both projects, so it allows the bidders from the first project to maybe go back out to their truck and, you know, tighten up their numbers and tighten things up if they wanna get the second project. So it benefits us as the city to space them out a little bit in that aspect. But then Cedar Corp will take the bids back, like I said, review them, make sure, double check them, make sure they didn't miss anything, make sure their math adds up properly, and then they'll be back here for the last meeting in March for council's approval on both projects. And
So
then
they'll know who basically should be awarded the
we'll know a little bidder at 205
205,
and
then
305.
it gives them a chance to readjust if they want before the next one.
Yep, we'll know the Third Avenue low bidder at about 5:10 after 2, and that gives them the opportunity to go back outside and adjust for their Laneville dryer numbers if they want to be a little bit more aggressive on that project, or how they feel those numbers for that project came out compared to their numbers for the other project.
Anything else on the engineer's report?
The cemetery, the town of Durand, and the Pepin County have all signed off on the CSMs and the transfer and the property to the city. So we just got to get the planning commission together, get it in front of them, and then bring it back to city council here, hopefully sometime in the next month here as well, to finalize the sale and the acquisition of the, I shouldn't call it a sale, but the transaction of the cemetery property. Other than that, that's all I have for the engineer's report, unless you have any questions.
Any questions on the engineer's report? Monthly update?
Our truck, talked to them yesterday, they were hoping to have that done by this end of this week. If it is not physically delivered by Friday, it'll be here Monday or Tuesday of next week. So things are moving along with that one with all the delays. The RBC, the company called back to verify some measurements, which got verified here about a week or so ago, and then they're going to start the actual construction process on that. They just wanted to verify a few things on the paperwork. We also have an issue down on Wells Street, just north of the sewer plant, where Excel drilled a power pole and they hit like a, I'm not sure if they hit like an artesian well or they hit a water spring or something like that. The water's running out across the road. It has been for quite some time. They relocated the pole, as most of you know. They tried to put bentonite in that hole. That didn't work. The road is kind of sinking. We got about a 6 to 8 inch deep swale, about 1 to 2 feet wide across the road. They're going to bring in some washed rock Friday. And we're going to put a bunch of washed rock in that swale. They'll try and level it out for the traffic, but then also allow the water to filter through the rock so we just don't create a dam and then keep pushing the rock down the road, down the road, down the road. So we called around the last couple of days and found some washed rock material to put in there for that. And they're working on a permanent fix for spring. We got to do some digging in order to probably permanently fix it, which we won't be able to do till spring. So we're working on resolving that issue. Otherwise, there's some signs up there, caution signs up and bump signs up down there now to just keep traffic slow enough through there so they don't tear the front end out of the cars or trucks. Other than that, Frost warnings were issued in the paper. The actual warning was last Wednesday. It was in the paper. Frost depth is nearing 5 feet in the highways, so that warning will be out until frost lifts. We did have a couple of homes that froze up that are working on thawing or other means of gaining water access. So other than that, everything else is status quo, unless you have any questions for me.
Is that power pole issue, is that our issue or is that their issue?
That's Excel's issue.
Any other questions? Public Works Utilities? Next, move on, discussion possible action regarding resolution 2101 for the 21 pool season and setting the parameters. It's a resolution that we pass every year, or we have for the last number of years, to basically say that we will attempt to operate the pool this year. Sets as far as what we'll do to, just again, so everybody's under the understanding that what we're going to do. Obviously, the one thing else that comes in this year, just like it did last year, the health situation, being the fact that this is a public pool, and concerning working with, and we'll see where we're at the time. But again, the reason why we actually had it on the agenda last time, but moved the actual approval because we needed to list it as a resolution, just to make sure it was properly done. Is anybody have any discussion about it? Would somebody like to offer it?
I'll offer the resolution.
Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
And a second?
Second.
The resolution has been offered. It's on the floor for any further discussion. Again, as I said, it's pretty boilerplate, or our boilerplate now, the way we put it together. About the city will not exceed about the $10,000, and that we already have budgeted for anything else besides the regular budgeted stuff that we already have, or we already have in there.
Is this the same resolution as the last few?
Same resolution.
Okay.
Except for the addition on item E regarding the health issue.
Yeah, the health issue might come into play, yeah.
What's the status, Matt, of the pool? I mean, no flop per se for not being open for a year?
Yeah, I won't be able to tell you that until May.
She'll fire it up.
Fire right.
Good thing. Again, any other questions concerning this resolution? Hearing none, I'll call the question. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hartung.
Yes.
Councilmember Raisler.
Yes.
Councilmember Schofield.
Yes.
Councilmember Schneider.
Yes.
Councilmember Hooker.
Yes.
Councilmember Gillis.
Yes.
All six in favor.
Resolution is agreed to. Next, we have a discussion possible action regarding the sidewalk from Dyer Street to Lee Street on the 2021 3rd Avenue East and Langville project. I'll sort of introduce where we were at with this. Again, we had obviously discussions about this, that the grant area goes till about the middle of this block and requiring a sidewalk, and again, so we had the discussion about, and I'm the one who spoke up and said, well, if we're going to do a sidewalk, we're not going to stop in the middle of the block. This section also has a couple things, because there's some retaining walls that we'll need on some properties. We got some tree issues. We also have some driveway issues. So, and I'm not sure exactly who came up with the idea, whether it was Cedar Corp or whether it was staff. Was Matt, did you the one who said, let's go back to the folks that issue the community development block grant and say, can we just take the sidewalk out for that block? This way we don't have to pay for a second half. We don't have the other issues. Again, we're stopping at Lee Street anyway. So the question is, Cedar Corp contacted the folks in Madison, correct? And they said that we could, if you want to explain what happened after we broached the idea about making the change.
Yeah, so we really struggled to get sidewalk in closer to Lee Street with the retaining wall and keeping some trees and trying to maintain a decent boulevard in there for snow removal. We come up with this idea to broach the CDBG, and they talked to Lynn in the office. Lynn runs the CDBG program through Cedar, and since the sidewalk from Dryer, halfway down the block is less than 10% of the total sidewalk in the project, there's no issue, with removing that quote unquote half a block, of sidewalk through CDBG. So there's no issue with them. It alleviates driveway issues by Dryer, the first two driveways on the map. We're having some issues trying to get a flat sidewalk in there. We won't have to go as far back up into some of them driveways. It alleviates the retaining wall issue, saves a few trees. Overall, actually saves the city about $20,000 to $25,000. You know, the restoration's a little questionable there, but $21,000 without restoration, probably 25-ish with restoration. So we tend to save a little bit of money there as well. Also, if we do put sidewalk in, where the condos start there's some storm drainage from their ponds. We'd actually have to add 2 more storm structures and some more pipe to get that under the sidewalk so that doesn't drain over the sidewalk. So there's just kind of so many, you know, little issues, little hurdles, I guess, to get sidewalk in there. Consensus is just to take it out and stop it at Dryer Street. We wanted to bring it in front of the council, see if you guys agreed with that or not, or got your hearts dead set on sidewalk to Lee Street.
You said at the stop sign in Dryer Street, right, man?
Yes, it basically stopped right in front of Jim Kinsella's complex there, kind of where that stop sign of Dryer Street is, there's where it'll stop, so it will not actually cross Dryer.
And again, I think we should eliminate some problems, and just as long as it didn't affect our grant. And again, as we said, and the idea was the decision made tonight. So then, once this body agrees to it, it'll be all set with the specs that'll be going out tomorrow for the bids, with the bids.
And it's not gonna delay the spec process, because actually last Monday, what we decided to do was that they would redo the specs. They would basically take the sidewalk spec, put it on a shelf, and they would redo the project without the sidewalk in it to have it all ready for bid tomorrow. If you chose to have sidewalk, they just pull that other spec off the shelf and put it back in the plan. So about a half an hour to an hour's worth of work tomorrow morning before the bids go out to put it back in, if you wanna keep it.
The sidewalk is going all the way to Dryer.
The sidewalk is going all the way to Dryer,
You'll
yes.
get out onto the street and then there'll be nothing.
Yes, correct.
Any other questions concerning this? Would somebody like to make a motion in this, for this situation?
I'll make a motion that we stop the sidewalk at Dryer Street.
Second.
We have a motion and second on the floor that we, as we issue the bids, we go forward, that we eliminate the sidewalk from Dryer to Lee Street. Any more discussion? Comments, concerns, anything? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion's agreed to. Let's pay the bills. Just a reminder, upcoming meetings, the special meeting tomorrow at 5. And then the next regular council meeting will be March the 10th.
That's it, yeah. Jenny put some at the end.
Of course, everybody on the safety committee knows we're meeting Monday for interviews for our open officer position.
We'll get
And that will be a meeting that will be in closed session. Any other committees coming up?
As man noted, we do have to get the plan commission together.
And the plan commission for the cemetery.
For the cemeteries, yes.
That was a big one.
Jerry, I think there was one on top there.
That I'm not supposed to
Yeah,
sign.
yours was over there.
Wasn't that first one, was it?
I think I saw it.
Well,
over
that's
there.
fine, we'll just re-sign it.
Yep. What time are you starting on Monday? Okay.
kind of slipped my mind, Scott. I talked to you today earlier about
Yep.
an appeals thing, so I don't know if that's something we want to discuss a little bit yet or not, or I just,
No, it's just a matter of, I think, once that gets put out there, we'll talk about it in the future council meeting.
because I've got some stuff from her that I don't know if that needs to be just to you or everybody gets to see it, or who wants to.
Let's just start with me and then we'll
Okay.
get it on the agenda.
Also, everybody is, Superintendent Gillis had mentioned about the bid opening, that is open, if anybody would like to come in and watch the bid opening. Obviously, it's open to the public, if you want to come in and do that. What?
So that sounds like a blast.
I know, yeah. You probably won't need
It's
crowd
not quite as
control.
fun as
Probably won't
watching,
need crowd control.
it's not quite as fun as watching paint dry.
Tomorrow's meeting will be even shorter. Mike cannot make it now, but we'll have his report and everything.
So, another written
We're
report.
back at 3.
Oh, okay.
Do you want me just to forward you that, Scott?
Yes.
Thanks for coming down tonight there, Brent.
Thank you.
Good report.
I think what sealed the deal was that front cover picture of that house in the back.
I was gonna say, I noticed whose house got it.
I figured it out.
Would somebody like to make a motion concerning the vouchers?
Make the motion to approve the vouchers.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the vouchers. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Schofield.
Yes.
Councilmember Schneider.
Yes.
Councilmember Raisler.
Yes.
Councilmember Hooker.
Yes.
Councilmember Sarcone.
Yes.
Councilmember Gillis.
Yes.
All six in favor.
Motion's agreed to. Again, any other future items or agenda items people want to bring up? Again, as we said, we've got the next meeting set. Otherwise, a motion to adjourn.
I have, Mr. Mayor, just one. We spent some time talking about the alcohol rules for city employees, city property, those kinds of things, and they don't know, we haven't done anything with that.
Oh,
It seems like it's time to,
okay.
I think we have a few
that's
other,
finance.
yeah, we have a few other things for the finance personnel committee as well, so we'll look at that for a future meeting as well.
Probably, yeah, in the next month or two. I know we get that.
People say we should
Okay.
have more beer in our meeting.
Okay, do we have the motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn. Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those say no. We are adjourned.
Too bad I didn't get it done earlier. You could have had your door open so that picture would have been